So this is really just going to be kind of an overview familiarization video. We're going to go over this in more detail later, but I wanted you to just kind of have a grasp of what's going on here. This is the power head that bolts back on your plastic battery case. This is why I was talking about the thing with all the relays and switches and stuff. This you do not have to do. You won't be doing. This is my temper nerd. This is why I have those 22 thermistors go into the battery that you're not going to be doing. So when you see this wiring here that all goes down here into the relays for the fan control, ignore this. This will not be anything you're doing. So basically what happens is there are 4 connections that have to be made to this thing. The positive end of the string, I'm not pointing at it, I'm just talking about it. The positive end of the battery pack, the negative end of the battery pack, and if you remember on the Prius, there was a little orange disconnect deal that makes the battery safe. Well, that's what this switch is right here. The circuit breaker. On the Honda, that's the same thing as the orange disconnect plug on the Prius. Basically what it does is it breaks the battery pack in half and makes it safe. It really breaks it at about 60-40. So 60% of the battery's on one side of it, 40% on the other. So now that you understand there's really 4 connections, positive, negative, and the safety disconnect. Okay, there's 4 wires that have to make it up into this head. Now, the way this worked on the Honda was you just put the head on there and bolted it in. All the connections were semi-automatic. But we've got to get wiring. Okay, we can't use the same way Honda does it. Fortunately, you don't have to make any wiring, basically. It all comes in your Prius pack. This is the safety disconnect wiring from the Prius. Believe it or not, it's exactly what we need to do it in the Honda. We'll go over this more later, but I just want you to have an overview. This goes on the battery pack, and it goes in a certain place, and 60% of the battery's on one side, 40% on the other. We put it exactly where Honda puts it, and it comes up into a big orange housing on the Prius battery with 2 prongs, and that's what the thing slides on. We cut that. These are the actual prongs, flattened out and then drilled to make them into rings, because I just didn't feel like putting lugs on here. So I used the Prius blades for the safety plug and made them into really nasty little prongs with a drill. See, that one's even broke. It's been like that since I made it. Works just fine. So we don't make any wiring. We use the Prius wiring, and it all fits perfectly. So you're going to have this. You're going to make using. That's why I said you need your entire Prius battery. This won't show up good because it's red on red. But just as another quick example here, here's our negative writing right here. Here's the side that ends up becoming positive with a short jumper. Again, this is all the Prius wiring, and it's all perfectly the right size. We don't have to make any wiring. Here's the positive one. Okay, that goes about like right here, like this, and comes through the power head. So there's all 4 of our connections, and they're all made for us. After we drill this, that's our circuit breaker connectors. That's 2 wires. Here's our positive. Here's our negative. And it's all perfectly, you don't have to do anything. You just need to know where to put it all. Well, I'm not going to go into that a whole lot in great detail here. I just want you to have an idea of what we're going to be doing. But basically, one of these wires, positive or negative, is going to come through here and attach. I think this was already, I might have tapped this. I'm not sure. It's right here, which goes through the amp sensor. You had to take this off right here because you need to cut this. This is where on the other end of this it was bent 90 degrees with a hole on it, and that's what connected power into the power head. And we don't want that. We got to get rid of that. We cut it. And don't worry about it now. I'll show you much better how to do this later. I just want you to understand how this is working. So we got one modification there, but we got to cut a piece of metal because we don't want it sticks through the case. We got to get rid of that. You'll see why when I flip this over. One connection goes here. I think this is for the 60-40 disconnect. One goes here. One goes up in here. One goes up here. So I think it's 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. don't get hung up on where and all that. We'll go over that later. I just want you to have an idea how this works. So the only thing I've done on this side to modify anything, I believe, is this little piece of metal right here because it sticks through. I might have done that one other place. Well, I have another power head. We'll compare and figure it out. Now, I'm going to flip it around. Hold on. Okay, so I've flipped it, and you'll notice that everything's flush. This is not how the normal thing is, because this right here sticks way up. This round circle sticks up. This round circle sticks up. So does this one. So does this one. We trim all those flush and get rid of them. This is where the 4 power connections were coming through on the original battery with metal, and we get rid of that. We change it. What we do is the wires that I showed you earlier are running up the side of the battery, and we shoot them through here. Okay, so that sounds pretty simple, but this sits flush against the battery pack, so there's got to be room made for these wires to route. So what we do is, see right there, I took a pair of tin snips and just cut that to give a place to put the wire in flush. I did it there. I did one here. Okay, so the wire can go through here. Do I have a small jumper? Hold on. So we've got to we got to be able to lay wire there, okay, and we got to be able to lay wire there, and we've got to be able to lay wire here, okay, and that's how the wire lays. That's how the wire gets between the battery pack and the power head, because this sits flush right against it. You got to make room for the wire, so we do a little chiseling here, and it's just a pair of tin snips does it. Just cut it and snap it, break it off. Not a whole lot you have to do. So the modification here is that we're going to make some cuts so that the wire can lay in here. We're going to cut off all 4 of these little barrels that are sticking up, so this is flush. It gets it right up against the battery pack. So no big deal here. We'll go into it more when we actually do it. I just wanted you to have a heads up about how this functions, okay? So we're going to be making that there, and eventually I'm going to reveal to you exactly how you wire this, but that's it. We make some ways to get the wires in here. We bring the wires in certain ways. We bolt the wires up certain places that all exist, and I believe there might be 2 places where we do something like this. We have to get rid of this piece of metal going through, so we just cut it, and we hook our wire in right here. Now, I may have drilled and tapped this, or that may have already existed. I don't remember. I have to look at my other power head. But that's where a wire is actually going to clamp to. A wire is going to go here. That exists. On the circuit breaker. See there? That's where one of the wires goes right there. Okay. I'm wondering now, where's that screw at? Why isn't it already on here? And so let's see. That's 1, 2. 1 goes here. 3. And 4 is on here somewhere. I'll figure it out. I haven't looked at this thing in a while. But, so, really, there's not a whole lot to it. The Prius wiring is almost perfectly ready to install. You need to take the, and I'll show you how to do this later, but you got to take the safety plug wiring off the Prius. It's flat blades right here, sort of like the male for the female plug. And we straighten it all out, beat it with a hammer, trim it down, and drill it to make it into rings. Okay? And we use it exactly as it is. This wire comes from the Prius. We use it. All of this wire, including the BMS sensing wire, we use all that off the Prius. And we this is Honda wire. We take this Honda wire and wire it into the Prius wiring. Okay? And then there's one more tricky thing. I'll just zoom down here and let you see if you can see it. See that little electronic component there? Little orange thing, little orange thing, little orange thing. Those came from the Honda pack. We've got to reuse those. Those are fuses. All right, so you see this Honda wire? Okay. Well, here it is. Here's the Honda wire. This is off another battery pack. And so we end up cutting this and tying it into the Prius wiring. This is the wiring that Honda uses for the BMS. But see that little electronic component right there? We've got to get all those out. We have to put those on the Prius pack. They're fuses. What they're for is they protect the BMS. The BMS is only looking to see how much voltage is somewhere. It doesn't move any power. These little things are just soldered in on each side and pull them out. But what they do is, they're only for one thing. If this wire got crushed and shorted out, these limit it to 10 milliamps and become highly resistive and don't let current flow. So they're sort of like they're called a PTC, auto resetting fuse. But we need all those. So you're gonna have to pull those out of your pack, and we need that piece of wiring. Okay, you don't do all that yet. We're gonna go over how to do it. As I'm giving you a heads up in this video about what to look out for that we're gonna be doing going forward. Okay, but there's not a whole lot of fabrication here. A couple things we got to cut, trim down some stuff.